Hey everyone, welcome back. This is part 2 of my EnderIO tutorial. This part of the tutorial we are going to be talking about some of the machines that are used in EnderIO and some of the extra little features that it comes with. So we're going to jump right into it. Last episode we worked on some of the component parts for EnderIO and some of the ingots and alloys that you can make with some of these machines over here. Now we're going to get to talking about the machines. The first one is the Stirling generator. If you don't have any other type of engine or dynamo or anything like that in your mod pack, such as something from thermal expansion, buildcraft, forestry, etc., then this is probably going to be one of the first machines you're going to make in order to power all the rest of these guys here. All of these guys, by the way, do take RF, MJ, and I believe they also take EU. I'm not 100% on that one, I'm pretty sure. They all display an MJ. If you look at Wayla at the top of my screen, they all say MJ, but if you use the conduits or their conduits, it'll automatically convert from RF to MJ. It will not go the opposite way, just to let you know. There are other mods for that. Anyhow, Stirling generator is going to be your primary power source. It takes coal, anything else, any other type of burnable. Whoops, I don't have cheats on. That's okay. We'll just use this one instead. It'll take any other type of burnable material that a furnace would normally take. And you can see that it's burning up the coal and it's starting to generate RF. Okay. Take that out for a second. The Stirling generator is very simple to make. It is two of the basic gears that we talked about in the first episode, a very simple piston, some stone bricks, which are simple enough to make, and a furnace. Alright, so that machine's going to power the rest of these guys here if you don't have something else powering them. The next one is the alloy smelter. We took a look at this one a little bit down here really quickly because I was showing off the different ingots and alloys you can make. The alloy smelter is the actual device that we use to do this. It has 3 inputs and it has 1 output, very similar to how the brew stand is kind of set up. You have a combination of items up here that ultimately result in the item down here. If we take a look over here, for example, we have one alloy here, another component here, which results in a vibrant alloy. This takes a long time. I'm not going to lie, this is not the fastest machine on the planet. Okay, it will do, by the way, it will do some induction smelter recipes and vice versa. So if you have thermal expansion installed and you have the induction smelter recipes, it will do some of these. It'll do things like the hardened glass, for example, with obsidian and pulverized obsidian and lead and whatnot. The alloy smelter is pretty simple to make as well. 2 copper ingots on each side. Then we have the machine chassis in the middle. We talked about the machine chassis. I'm hoping we did. Uh-oh, maybe not, possibly. Alright, well in that case, machine chassis is one of the most basic components of the rest of these EnderIO machines. Basically, it's very simple to make. It's just a whole bunch of iron. This is basically the first component that you need. You build on top of this, the machine, is the kind of idea behind that. You need 2 stone bricks, a furnace, and a basic capacitor, which I know we did talk about over there because I see it hanging out there. So very simple to make. The next one is the sag mill. This is kind of the pulverizer of EnderIO with a couple extra little added bonuses. You can put items in the top slot, and what it'll do is it'll basically rip them apart, very much similar to a pulverizer. You put cobblestone in here, you're going to get a certain output. You put sand in here, you're going to get a certain output. So if we look at the recipes for a second, you can see obsidian makes pulverized obsidian. I have rotary craft installed, so you can pulverize the rotary craft ingots. Certus quartz from AE. I mean, gold. You have a certain chance, mind you, to get these, okay? The first one in the first slot typically is 100% chance. Everything else after that can be anywhere from 10 to 90% chance to get. I believe 10 is like the lowest. But as you can see, there's a ton of recipes in here, and it's very similar to what would happen if you were doing this in a pulverizer, with the exception of one added bonus slot. Just go through all of these. Actually, some of these are kind of neat. Out of coal ore, if you put like the actual coal block ore into a sag mill, you actually have less than a 1% chance to get a diamond. But this machine is kind of useful for that situation. It'll also do the same thing that a pulverizer will do, which is double and quadruple your bone meal output if you happen to have like large bone segments from biomes of plenty. So yeah, basically pretty much all the same recipes of the pulverizer with little added bonuses. Let's see, very easy to make, very similar to the pulverizer. We need flint, a couple of iron, again the machine chassis, which is the basic component of all the machines, and then another basic capacitor. We have next the painting machine. I'm not going to get into too much detail about what this guy gets right now, because when we get over there I have a little setup and I'm going to explain what it does more. The basic idea of this is that in EnderIO you have these conduits. These conduits can be placed inside of walls. You see when I mouse over this, Wayla at the top says that this is a conduit facade. If I look above, it's a brownstone brick, but if I look below, it's a conduit facade. That's because what the painting machine uses are these things called conduit facades. And you notice that they're blue with a little paintbrush on them. If I put this guy in here in the second slot, it's not going to do much. I have to tell it what I want the machine to paint it as. So basically, this will do anything from vanilla Minecraft to, add-ons, biomes of plenty. Let's say for some reason I want to put a conduit through a piece of purified grass from biomes of plenty. There. That facade that I couldn't place down before that had a blank texture now looks and acts like the grass. Except the nice thing is that I can just break it. I can repaint these too. These are not like a one-time use thing. I can, oops, I didn't want to do that. When it pops back out, I'll switch it back in. There we go. I can repaint it, so these aren't like a one-time use. If it's already been painted, it does paint a little faster the second time around. So these are really, really cool. You might be asking, well, okay, why are they so great? Really quickly, if I hold my EnderIO wrench in my hand, you can see all of a sudden this whole entire little network inside the walls is revealed. This is all the conduits I have running from this creative energy power cell to keep all those machines working inside the walls to the backs of these machines. And that keeps everything on this little path here running. This is why the conduits are so cool. You can hide the conduits inside of the walls. You see how this conduit just goes straight into the wall? It actually technically doesn't. It's just being hidden by one of the facades. I'm going to explain this little bunch right here later down the road. Not going to get too much into it. But that's the basic idea of the painting machine. This one's very simple to make. It does require 1 diamond, but believe me, for organizational purposes, if you're any type of computer nerd and you love network cabling and organizing cabling, I'm a total nerd like that. I love that stuff. You'll love this. And I'll definitely explain that a little bit more later. Painting machine. Another quartz, tin on either side, another basic capacitor, and another machine chassis. Very simple. Next is the capacitor bank. The capacitor bank is essentially your battery box of this mod. It's battery box, it's an energy cell, any other mods that you've played before that store power, this is that device. This stores power for the rest of these machines down here. So the capacitor bank has a maximum and minimum output. You can change this very easily. So let's say I want it to only put out 500 RF per tick. I can do that. I can also tell it, oh, that's the max input, I'm sorry. Max output 500. And let's say I want max input is 1000. 1000 is as high as it can go, unfortunately, so it can't take in energy very fast. But the nice thing about this is that unlike the energy cells, this also doubles as a device that will charge your devices that need power. So for example, let's say I'm going to get another item from this mod, the Staff of Traveling. I've already got one in my inventory, but the one that I have already has full power. So I'm going to grab one that doesn't have power and stick this in here. I can shift click it in and it starts to charge up. Now max output is 500 right now, so it's doing it a little slowly. There we go. And it's going and it's done. So it's not super duper fast, it's not really slow either, it's kind of a medium pace, and don't worry, we're going to go over the staff of traveling later. But the nice thing about this is that you can charge 4 items at a time, unlike the energetic infuser from thermal expansion, which A, only works as a charging station, and B, will only charge one thing at a time. So this is kind of a nice little multifunction device. This guy is a little bit more difficult to make. The redstone block, not too bad. The tin, not too bad. The 4 double layer capacitors, though, is what kind of gets you a little bit. Don't forget, these double layer capacitors are composed of 2 of the basic ones and a couple pieces of electrical steel with a coal powder. Granted, the coal powder and the electrical steel are not too hard to come by, but, you know, if you need to make 4 of those double layered ones, you're going to need essentially, let's see, 2, 4, 6, you're going to need 8 of the basic capacitors. So they do take a little bit to make. They're not overly complex. They just, you know, they take a little time. So next one is the photovoltaic cell. This is a very simple block. It has no interface. I can't right click on it. It really doesn't look like it's doing much, but it's a sneaky little block. This is actually a solar panel, and this is the solar panel of the EnderIO mod. I forget exactly how much RF it puts out per tick, but it's more than enough to bring some basic power into your house. Now the thing is that they're a teeny bit expensive to make. You do need a couple energetic alloys on each side of this. You need 2 of the fused quartz, which we're going to go over down there. You also do need some pulverized coal, so you need a pulverizer or a sag mill to get that. And then you actually need a daylight sensor from Minecraft, which is not terribly difficult to make, but you do have to have gone to the nether to get that. So these are nice. These can be chained together, so if I really wanted to, I could just do something like this. Just like any other solar panels, you can put them on roofs, you can put them on the ground. I don't think you can put them, no, you can't put them on the side of blocks. It doesn't really make much sense. It wouldn't catch much light there. But yeah, they're really cool, really useful, nice little alternative method of getting power if you don't like the Stirling generators, which honestly, I don't blame you. They're a little slow to produce power. They don't store a whole lot of RF, and yeah, they're not the most efficient things on the planet. They don't use their fuel very efficiently. The next block is a really cool little block. I love this guy. As you can see, it's actually on the side of the wall. This is a really cool little device. This is a powered light, and it's exactly what its name implies. It's a little light that you can send a redstone signal to with a little bit of MJ or RF, and it will light up. You can put these in all sorts of different directions. Sound like glowstone when you break them, but they're really cool. You can put them on ceilings of stuff too. So let's say, for example, there we go. I can put that underneath, and I can have a little light hanging down. I believe they put out about as much light as a torch. This guy is off right now, and I have this set up to show you something. There's another machine on the other side of this that monitors all the power that's going through my EnderIO system, called the Power Monitor. If I right click on it, it's going to tell me how much storage I have going on throughout my entire network, RF wise, how much my capacitor bank is storing, any machine buffers, how much power are currently in all of my machines, and then it'll tell me the average output and average input so I can get an idea for how much power usage I have going through my system. It'll also tell me how much power is in this actual machine. The other neat little thing here is there's a second tab that has a little redstone on it. If you click it, you can do what's called engine control. And what this is that if you have the entire, all your EnderIO machines networked, like I do here, see I have all the power cables connected to each other, this machine is actually capable of detecting that capacitor bank on its little network, quote unquote. And you can actually tell it to emit a redstone signal, for example, when the storage is less than 75% full. So if, for example, I have some capacitor banks in another room, I put them to the side or I put them underground, but I don't want to go downstairs every single time to come and check and see if they're full or if they're empty or what's going on. So what I can do is I can set up a little redstone signal here. This is a very simple redstone conduit. I have it set up going to the back of the little light here, and I have the light also hooked into the power system because, like I mentioned, the light does need a little bit of MJ, only about 20 Minecraft joules per tick. It's not too much because it won't use that when it's not on, and it keeps a little buffer. If you look at my Wayla on the top there, you see that it actually has a little internal buffer. You can't click on it to see the buffer, but if you mouse over the Wayla, you see it. Now, why am I showing you this? Because this is cool. This capacitor bank is at 100%. It's completely charged. Right? So if I look here, right, emit a signal when the storage is less than 75%, stop the signal when it's 90%. So it's over 90%, so there's no signal right now. However, if I come over here and I destroy this capacitor bank, put another one back, suddenly the light turns on because it's less than 75% full. So I can have this little light downstairs and I can have it tell me if my capacitor banks are filling up or not. Now once this gets back up to 90%, that little light is going to go off again, which should only take a couple seconds because I have a creative energy cell sitting right underneath it. And there it goes, and the light turns off. So really neat little functionality, kind of cool. The powered light, pretty simple to make, just a basic capacitor, a couple silicon, glass, and glowstone. Really neat. It only makes one, unfortunately, but the recipe is fairly simple. The next block is the travel anchor. You can, before I click on that, the travel anchor is a neat little block device. Its primary function is to teleport the player around. It has a maximum and minimum distance, which is configurable in EnderIO's configs. I have it set up right now so that I think the maximum I can jump is something like 30 blocks or something like that, I think. But basically, these travel anchors are exactly what they imply. They're anchor points that you can teleport between. So I'll show you over there in a minute. Basically, if you have the staff of traveling in your inventory, and I'm going to go over this in more detail later, I can use this staff of travel to bounce back and forth between the actual anchors themselves. And I have multiple anchors. I have one over there, I have one over there, and I have one right here. You can right click on the anchor if you'd like, and you can set these to public, protected, private, whatever you'd like. So you can have these, for example, in a nice big, spawn area in your server or something, and you can set it to public so everybody can use it. You can set it to private so that only you can use it. Protected. I am at a loss for what protected exactly does. I've tested this out a couple times. If somebody knows, I'd be more than grateful to find out about that. But yeah, typically I just set them to private so that only I can teleport around. I'm just going to jump these really quick. I don't like having a lot of junk in my inventory. I'm really neurotic about that. The travel anchor is a little bit more difficult to make. The conduit binder is not too bad. The iron ingot's not too bad. However, it needs an item that we haven't gone over yet, which is the pulsating crystal. I put enough in here for 4 of these, but I don't technically need 4 of these. So I'm going to show you what the travel anchor does. When you have the staff of traveling in your hand, you'll see this anchor and those anchors are lit up, and they show through walls. When the center of my mouse gets close enough to one of those anchors, the anchor lights up. So basically what that means is that if the anchor is lit up, and I've highlighted it, it's an anchor that I can teleport to by right-clicking with the staff. Now I'm in here. I can go to the next room, right here. And then I can go back to the test area, right here. Travel anchor. You can have as many of these in your little network as you want. You can have them set to different things, so public and private. So if you have these set inside of a building that you don't necessarily want everybody to get into, you can set those to private and set the ones that are around your base that you don't care if people come into or not. You can set those to public. It does use just a smidge of RF every single time. Again, the power usage on the Staff of Traveling is also configurable, as well as this. Whoops. If you shift and right click with the Staff of Traveling in your hand, you can actually kind of trick the game a little bit if you click fast enough and actually have it teleport you around through the air, and you can kind of use it to fly. It drains the power very quickly. As you can see, it took a good smidge off of that bar. Again, that's also configurable. You can actually make a cooldown for teleports, so I can't just zoom around like an Enderman. You can tell it, you have to wait 2 seconds before teleporting again or whatnot. Safety precautions and whatnot. So that's the traveling anchor. That pulsating crystal is an item that we're going to talk about a little bit later. It's on the other side of that there. The next item we're going to talk about is the fused quartz and the quite clear glass. These are two decorative but also functional blocks. Mostly the quite clear glass is decorative, and the fused quartz is the more useful one. Both of these can be substituted for any recipe that you need quote-unquote glass for. They're both ore dictionaried to use anything with glass. The fused quartz, on the other hand, is ore dictionaried with hardened glass from thermal expansion, which is absolutely fantastic because sometimes, I've already got the alloy smelter, but I don't necessarily have an induction furnace yet. So I can, take some nether quartz and then use the fused quartz glass instead. Both of these are fairly simple to make. The fused quartz glass is just 4 nether quartz and it makes 1 glass. The quite clear glass is just sand in an alloy smelter though. Okay, and then it'll make that clear glass. It looks pretty nice. I mean, if you like borderless glass, it could look really good for a bridge or, something to that effect. I'm not terribly creative when it comes to building. Builders always come up with really cool stuff. Next item is the reservoir. This reservoir is a really, really awesome item. If we look in here, grab this really quick. And I didn't put in the crafting recipe for that, which I meant to. That's okay. The reservoir holds water, but it not only holds water, if you put at least 2 buckets inside of the reservoir, this 4x4 block becomes an infinite water source. You can pump directly out of this as if it was a tank. You can put machines directly next to it as if it was a tank. You can pump water into it if you'd like, but you're kind of going to lose it because it's infinite water source. You just put 2 buckets in and you're done. Put this between your machines that need water, like the steam engines or anything like that, and you're good. The reservoir is made with 2 of the fused quartz that we mentioned over there, a couple of glass panes, and a cauldron. Very, very simple to get, and it makes you 2. You need 4. So basically do that recipe twice, and you're in business for an infinite water source. And that is the Machines and Extras EnderIO tutorial. If you have any questions, comments, or any other, interesting tidbits, be sure to leave me a comment. If this video helped you out, please feel free to like and subscribe. It helps me out a whole bunch. Next episode, we are going to be looking at all the other items on the other side of this wall. These are all the conduits that actually go inside of the conduit facades and hide inside of the woodworks of your walls. So, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we will see you next time.